My background is across a number of subjects. I'm an academic. I research and I teach, and that tends to define my life. And within today's session, I want to try to address each of those aspects. We were asked this question about our future, about how we imagine technology changing teaching, learning, and research. And within my field, it's changed it from the start. And one of the things that I say to people today is that ignoring social media is like ignoring email in 1994. It is not simply something we should be doing, it's something that we have to be doing. And that's partly because failure to do so, failure to integrate and embrace the mobile revolution is a failure to understand the native forms of communication that our students enjoy. And if you look across the world today, the growth of devices is staggering. People aren't buying desktops today. Students aren't buying even laptops today. They buy tablets, they buy mobile devices. And I want to take you back initially to give you a sense of how I think the architecture of communication within universities is changing. And to do so, I want to present a film that was created really just at the beginning of this social media revolution by a professor in anthropology, Michael Welsh, which gives you a sense of how everything changed online back in 2004 when the Web 2.0 revolution took hold. It changed the way in which we share content, so both the technical side of what we do in digital worlds, but it also changed the culture of sharing. I think Anders mentioned the sharing economy, and we live in a world where I think there's greater expectation and desire to ensure that what we do, whether it's in the classroom or life beyond education, has value outside of those contexts. So this is my first film for you. So this, for me, is still the most powerful way of expressing what's changed online and what is particularly inspiring about it. It's this sense of empowerment that digital transformations brings. And that underpins my proposition for today, which is that we, as universities, need to think about the staff-student ratio in much more radical ways and approach a situation where we have one teacher per student, very far from the current model that we have, in fact, increasingly distant from the present model, which is predicated on bringing in more student numbers and bringing in more revenue often. So the context, I think, is that time is the commodity. We live in a world now where actually time matters most. And in learning, that is, I think, especially the case. We need to think about the opportunities that technology provides for us to enable more personalized one-to-one tuition. And it's my conviction that technology as a means within an intelligent learning system is the answer to this predicament. So when we think about education, I think, again, we can look across educational systems and see that the desire for having one-to-one contact is a clear indication of success. The more time you can have with a student in developing and nurturing them on a personal basis, the more effective we can be as teachers and as educators in creating opportunities for learning that empower individuals. So that one-to-one element is central to this. But how do we do it? How do we provide that kind of personal attention that we as teachers desire, but which are limited considerably by the structures around us and the impositions of trying to deliver more educational experiences to more and more students? I think this is where we need to look towards technology. So this is somewhat of a radical solution, but it actually is encouraging to hear some of the conversations we've had already today, which draw attention to the importance of people within technological solutions. It's almost a cliche, in fact, that we, as we become more dependent on technology, we gravitate towards the idea of attending to humans and ensuring that they're not lost within the process. My solution tries to combine both of those elements. But I think when we look across the world, we can see that there's value in trying to bring these kinds of individual experiences, not least because it provides a way of students being able to do more with their work than just produce coursework for assessments. I'm motivated by the range of approaches to education today that are seeking out opportunities for students to, through their labor, have an impact beyond their courses. To give you one example, one project that we're seeking to launch at the University of Salford will empower students to redesign our website. So whilst we have lots of students learning how to build websites in their own courses, we don't often connect those skill developments with the actual visible profile of the university. We tend to pay a lot of money for our university, for other companies to design those kinds of digital assets. Whereas if we can create projects within courses that allow students to create products or solutions that can benefit the wider world, I think this further empowers individuals. One area that I'm very excited about is the growth of citizen science, which is becoming a very exciting area around the world as we speak. Scientific projects that are endeavoring to engage regular citizens in the conduct of that research and the discovery of new findings. But you know, one of the most neglected populations in citizen science is the student population. My own university has around 20,000 students. We can engage those young people on the discovery of scientific findings in ways that we presently aren't doing. So providing opportunities for students to present their labor outside of university settings is, I think, one of the imperatives. And this is why the subtitle of my talk is about the need to get behind the social media revolution, because students increasingly expect for their work to be public. As more and more of their lives are played out in the public domain, the incentive to produce work that doesn't reach the wider public, I think, diminishes. So I proposed the creation of these intelligent learning systems. This is an approach that I wish to define by drawing attention to how that word intelligence over the last few years seems to have been less attached to individuals and more attached to computers. That prefix of I that precedes many words today, such as the iPhone, is an indication of this. but actually we need to look at the blended opportunities for developing intelligent learning systems that build on human insights and that draw on the capabilities of technology to transform what we can do. And it may well mean the absence of certain jobs that presently exist, but I think this is inevitable. This is something that we have to work around, and it's a world in which I think students will begin to live. You know, I'm always reminded of the MIT slogan, which one of their phrases is that they're creating graduates for whom jobs do not yet exist. Their desire to create young graduates with skill sets that allow them to adapt to a changing world where, yes, skills may become redundant, but where they have to have the capacity to adapt to that environment is crucial. But to add a bit more further context to this, here's another film. So this is the world that our students inhabit today. It's a world that is defined by mobile media, defined by being able to access everything in real time and as often and as soon as you would like. So when we look at the sorts of principles on which we want to build new educational opportunities, we of course look back to our heritage. We look at what sorts of things have worked well. We look at what we want that experience to be for a learner, whether you're an undergraduate at university or a mature student. And I think that's where we don't look at removing some of those key principles in the production of new educational opportunities. It's about building on what we've learned already about how education works best. But building in flexibility within the system is one of those emerging trends within our universities. It's partly what explains the phenomenon of MOOCs and flipped classrooms. It's about trying to create bespoke, personalized experiences. And that coheres a lot with this wider world of mobile media. So if you log on to Facebook, you get your personalized news stream. You don't get a generic news stream that everyone else gets as well. The same for Google. If you search within Google, you're within what's called the filter bubble. So the broader development of personalized experiences, personalized discovery experiences, I think maps onto education quite neatly. It's trying to provide an opportunity for people to have bespoke, individual, unique learning journeys. And we see this being really transforming, I think, how education takes place. So the concepts of open badges, where you can go online and take qualifications developed by industry that are not underwritten by an educational institution. But the point is that those institutions, our institutions, no longer are the sole guardians of those territories. The value of our qualifications is only as good as the reputation of the institution that delivers it. And as more and more big companies get behind developing new qualification experiences, I think that status is challenged, and rightly so. So students are used to using technology for discovery, and they're used to being more independent learners, and I think that's partly the principle that we need to get to. The problem we have in the world today is much less about the digital divide and much more about the digital literacy divide. As educators, in fact, just this morning in the BBC website, there's a headline about a proposal within the government in Wales to embed digital learning within all aspects of the curriculum. So not a subject that's taught separately, but within every single subject that is taught. I'm someone that believes firmly that social media should be taught within our national curriculum. It's something that we need to integrate within formal learning processes. It's currently neglected. And you think about the issues around privacy, some of the concerns we have about it. My son is 4 years old. I'll talk about him a bit in a moment as well. But he already can work his iPad like many 2 to 4 year olds can. And he's already entering into this world of digital technology. As he gets older, I suspect, like many young people, he will not read the terms and conditions of Facebook or Twitter. He will have no real knowledge about what he commits when he enters into these environments, which are not open in the way that we would like them to be. They are proprietary environments. When you sign up to Facebook, you waive certain privacy rights in order to use the application effectively. So, and the data, of course, is owned by Facebook. So we enter into this bargain when we use these platforms, which I advocate, by the way. But the point is to recognize that they're not simply something we do without some compromise. So making sure that people have opportunities to become digitally literate is crucial, I think. But there has historically been this division between the humans and the machines, this idea that machines may replace us or make certain things redundant about what we do and what we value. I think this intelligent learning systems approach endeavors to blend these two dimensions. So again, my son Ethan, he started school in September and already has been assigned his mathletics homework. Just a quick question. How many people, hands up if you've heard of mathletics? So very few people, just 2 people in the room. Mathletics is an example of how education is being gamified. This word gamification is an indication of how learning experiences are being transformed through digital technology. So when Ethan comes home from school at about 4 o'clock, he has about 30 to 40 minutes on the iPad playing his mathletics game. It's a game that helps you learn maths. But what's interesting about it is not just the fact that he can do it on his iPad. It's his iPad now, it's not ours anymore. It's not just that, but it's also that he can play with other kids in his class. He can also play with other kids in other schools all around the world in a global competition where there's rankings within schools as to how far they've got. So from the age of 4 years old, learning involves digital shared gaming experiences. And I wonder what it will be like when he enters maybe university at 18 years old, what his expectations will be of the university within these sorts of areas. I suspect they will be very high. So the social dimension of gaming, of learning, that I think is implicit within this mathletics program, which is a worldwide phenomenon, I think, and growing, is an indication of how that intelligent learning can take place. So the data that we talk about that can be valuable, that we heard about in the keynote presentation this morning by video, derives from these kinds of applications. The value of being in social media isn't just about connecting with your students, but it's about having an aggregation of that data that can help you develop insights that can lead to better programs and better educational systems. So the loss of not getting on board with it soon is a loss as a kind of longitudinal loss, not just a real-time loss. So creating personalized experiences, I think, is a way of recognizing the direction of travel for learning and discovery experiences. I was speaking to somebody last night at the reception and mentioned that when I have a problem in my house now, I don't call a plumber or an electrician. I go onto YouTube and see if I can find a solution. And 8 times out of 10, I can solve it myself. And I think, again, this process of discovery where people learn, we heard about Wikipedia in the opening video talk as well. Wikipedia is emblematic of, I think, this shift in how people expect to be able to discover things by themselves, and empowering people to do so within education, I think, is crucial. But what social media also provides is an opportunity for direct one-to-one contact with people that are outside of our institutions. So, for example, last year and again this year, I've given guest lectures via Twitter with the University of Bath. So they would have their lecture time, and within that lecture time, we would have discussion in public on Twitter around the topic that they're studying. And one of the values that we found in the research we've conducted around this is that students value that connection with external experts, people that they perhaps wouldn't feel comfortable contacting individually, but to have that broader connection with the wider world is of great value to young people. So we want to create these personalized experiences, personalized, bespoke, and tailored to the individual. But crucially, and I think this is also implicit within the flipped classroom model, it's about the student also determining their learning as well, and having a say in how they approach their learning. So, to get to the heart of this intelligent learning system,